Today I'm reviewing the most controversial movie of the year, Joker. Does it live up to the hype? Why has it caused so much controversy? Is it worth your hard-earned dollars, or is it just the latest DC train wreck? I'm Lance, you're watching The Fourth Wall, and this is our review of Joker. First off, let me tell you that I take my Batman very, very seriously, and I was more than a little apprehensive when I first heard that there was a Joker origin movie in the works. One of my favorite things about the Joker is that he doesn't have a set origin story in the comics, and that makes him even more enigmatic. Comic stories like The Killing Joke even emphasize that not even Joker himself understands what made him the way he is, and I love that. I loved not knowing why Joker is Joker. When it was revealed that Todd Phillips would be directing, I was even more skeptical than before, not because he's a bad director, but because he's more well known for making comedies like Old School and the Hangover movies. And the fact that DC hasn't been able to make a truly good comic book movie since Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, and it seemed to me that this was a recipe for disaster. Even with Joaquin Phoenix in the starring role, I felt like there was just too much going against this movie for it to be any good. Well, folks, I was dead wrong. Not only is this an outstanding movie, it's probably the best comic-based movie since The Dark Knight was released in 2008. Now, I should explain that this is definitely not your traditional comic book movie. There's no battle of good versus evil. There's not even really a hero to speak of. Instead, what we get is an incredibly in-depth character piece that lets Joaquin Phoenix shine as he deals with mental illness, widespread poverty, corrupt politics, and the decaying society that is Gotham City. Phoenix plays Arthur Fleck, an aspiring comedian who works as a clown and lives with his mother in the slums that make up most of Gotham, which is a not-so-subtle stand-in for New York City in the 1980s. Crime is everywhere. People are hostile and often violent, and there doesn't seem to be much light at the end of the tunnel for most of the poor and working classes. The upper-class elites, embodied by mayoral candidate Thomas Wayne, look down on everyone else and even compare them to animals who are simply too lazy and stupid to fix their own problems. I'm not going to spoil anything here, but I'll just say that as Arthur tries to eke out an existence in this cold world, we see just how badly he gets warped and twisted by circumstances completely beyond his control until he, and the city at large, reach a critical breaking point. Phoenix's portrayal of Fleck is equal parts heartfelt and utterly disturbing and will need to be seen to be believed. I will be very surprised if he doesn't pick up an Oscar nomination for his work in this movie. Director Todd Phillips borrows heavily from the works of Martin Scorsese, most notably from Taxi Driver and The King of Comedy. But there's still plenty here to make this his own film and not just some cheap ripoff of the legendary filmmaker. Now, there's a lot of controversy surrounding this movie right now. People are saying that it glorifies violence, or it tries to make us sympathize with a cold-blooded murderer. I would argue that, one, this is not an extremely violent movie. If you can watch Taxi Driver or anything by Quentin Tarantino, this film is a cakewalk. And two, just because there is violence in the movie doesn't mean that that violence is being glorified. I would argue that it's more of a warning about what can happen when society takes a sharp wrong turn and too many people get left behind. In the end, this is a film about how people need to be recognized by society as important and valuable. Those who are shunned, ostracized, and taken advantage of will eventually fight back any way they can. And when that happens, a story that starts off as a comedy can quickly become a tragedy. Thanks for watching, YouTube. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, please hit those like, share, and subscribe buttons so you don't miss out on more awesome content. I'll see you at the movies.